Your father finally passed away, huh? He was such a kind father. I really loved him. Great. We can finally get the inheritance, huh? Maybe we should go on a trip or something. That sounds nice. Let's use the money to go on a family trip to the beach resort. While I was crying in sadness, without a single word of comfort from them, these two people were overjoyed, thinking they could inherit everything. I had a shocking fact to tell them. Huh? What are you talking about? We're divorced, you know? No way. I didn't know. What do you mean? There's no way you could divorce Steve without his consent. My husband and mother-in-law were in panic. I had prepared the divorce papers in advance and had already filed them. There was no way I was going to give any of my father's inheritance to this awful family. My name is Angela. I'm 34 years old and work as a caretaker at a nearby nursing home. My husband, Steve, is 4 years older than me and manages a real estate agency. I met my husband at a group blind date organized by an acquaintance. At the time, I was 29 and starting to feel the pressure to get married soon. And I was invited by a friend to the gathering. The men at the event were rowdy, saying, "Angela, drink up. Cheers." I can't drink much. Come on. If you get drunk, you'll be glad you drank, right? Drink up. Feeling disgusted, I excused myself to the restroom and went outside for some fresh air. That's when the person who came next to me with a bottle of water and said, "Are you okay? I'll handle things here, so why don't you just head home today?" That was Steve. He then took care of my belongings and even gave me taxi fare to send me home. I remember, even at the party, he was the only one who wasn't getting involved in the hype, leaning against the wall by himself. That day, I thought he was kind and that probably I wouldn't see him again. However, a few days later, I was taking a break at a cafe near my work when I unexpectedly ran into Steve again. "Oh, you're Angela from that time, right?" Even though he seemed uninterested at the blind date, he had remembered my name, which made me feel a bit happy. "Oh, yes. I'm Angela. You're Steve, right? You remembered my name." "Yes, I'm Steve. Do you often come to this cafe?" "It's nice that you remembered my name too, Steve. This is the closest cafe to my workplace, so I often take breaks here. So, it's the same for me. My workplace is just around the corner." What a coincidence. We ended up sitting at the same table and started chatting. From that day on, whenever I went to the cafe, Steve would be there. And we would take breaks together, chatting about trivial things. About a year after meeting Steve, we started to see each other as more than friends. And our relationship began. The relationship went smoothly, and last year, on our second anniversary, Steve proposed and we got married. I was filled with excitement, looking forward to our happy days ahead. However, one day, Steve told me his mother was coming over to our house. "Angela, Mom is coming over to visit today." "Huh? Your mother?" I asked, just as the doorbell rang. "Oh, look, here she comes," he said, greeting his mother with a big smile. Even though he was already in his 40s. He was so thrilled just because his mother was visiting. He had always been like this, a supermama's boy. Even as for his current job, he had climbed to the position of manager through connections from his mother. I liked Steve, but this was the one aspect of him that I found off-putting. "Steve. Long time no see. Mom, Thank you for coming all this way. Come on in. Oh, Angela, you are here. His mother said, clearly displeased to see me. His mother is currently 68 years old and lives on a pension. She has a daughter and a son, Steve, but divorced her husband when Steve was still in elementary school and raised her children as a single mother. Her daughter is married and lives in New York, far enough away that they hardly ever meet. But Steve and his mother frequently stay in touch. And they meet at our house like this once a month. Probably, his mother, who loves her son dearly, always looks displeased whenever she sees me. Perhaps thinking that I've taken her son from her. Nice to see you again. It's been a while. Is something wrong today? What? Do I need a reason to come visit? No, not at all. It's just that today is the start of the Easter holiday, so I wondered if something was up. Yes, it's the start of the Easter holiday for most people. Today was also the start of the first long holiday since I married Steve. And I had been researching places we could visit, perhaps even go to the sea for a day trip. I came to stay over because it's the start of the Easter holiday today. Oh, you're staying from today? How long will you be staying? Maybe until the last day of the Easter holiday. Where are we going today? There's a festival near the park today, and they'll have fireworks. Let's go together, Steve said, completely ignoring me as he got excited with his mother about the holiday plans. Would she be staying with us until the last day of the Easter holiday? Wait a second, Steve. I wasn't informed about this. Weren't we supposed to go out just the two of us today? Oh, didn't I mention it? I didn't mean just the two of us, but I meant the three of us, including Mom. 3 of us. And you're telling me this all of a sudden. There's no place for her to sleep. I hinted at him to stop. But Steve didn't catch on at all. We can use the living room for sleeping. I'll go buy some blankets now, and besides, Mom will cook for us, right? You can take a break from household chores during Easter, Angela. It's not about taking a break from chores. Despite my desperate resistance. What? Angela, you really hate it that much when I stay over. Wow, Angela, that's terrible. No, I didn't mean it like that. I had no choice but to deny it, but inside, I was really thinking, of course, I hate it. Thus, during the Easter holiday, my mother-in-law ended up staying with us every day. All right, I'll go buy the blankets now, Steve said, rushing out of the house. Left alone with my mother-in-law, I was really sick of his selfish behavior. From the next day, every time I suggested excitedly, "Isn't this place nice? Let's go together tomorrow," then Steve would say, "Wow. Great idea. Mom would love it here." Thus, he started taking his mother along on all our dates. In the end, I never got to spend any time alone with my husband during the Easter holiday. But today was the last day of such days. While it was sad that the long-awaited holiday was ending, I was happier thinking that my mother-in-law was going home today. "It's been a long stay, thank you," my mother-in-law said as she gathered her belongings to leave. But then Steve suddenly exclaimed, "Mom, you're leaving? Oh, right. From now on, why don't you live here with us?" I was about to lose it at his shocking suggestion, but while I was taken aback, my mother-in-law's eyes sparkled as she said, "Really? I can't believe my son would suggest such a thing. I really raised a good son. Wait a minute, please." I tried to stop my mother-in-law, then turned to my husband. "Steve, why are you deciding this on your own? Listen to my opinion too. Huh? What's your problem? You're planning to send my mom back to her house alone? It's suddenly sprung on us, we have our own lives. And it's obviously going to be difficult. Calm down for a second. Were you always such an unpleasant person? Anyway, from today, Mom is living with us, so keep out of it, he started shouting. Hearing her son's statement, the mother-in-law seemed very pleased. Well then, I'll pack up right away and move over here, she said cheerfully as she left the house. I'm not the type who's good at voicing my opinions, and with these two, who just don't understand, I was even less able to say anything. A few hours later, the mother-in-law arrived at our house with a lot of luggage. In this way, the cohabitation began, almost forced upon me. The days that followed were the worst every day. When I returned from work, there would only be 2 servings of food on the dining table. Well, what's this about? I asked my mother-in-law. There's no food for you, so go buy something at the store. As she openly harassed me and told me daily, you should leave this house soon. Unable to hold back, I blurted out. You really hate me, don't you? Have I done something to make you dislike me? Then, the mother-in-law said, yes, I hate you. I don't need a reason though. I just hate your presence. My presence. You're trying to monopolize Steve. Oh, how detestable, and she shooed me away. Reaching my limit, I decided to persuade Steve to reconsider living with his mother. I can't take it anymore. Your mother only harasses me and keeps making snide remarks. I can't live with her anymore. What are you talking about? Stop being so annoying. You're the one with the bad attitude. What? Me? That's not true at all. I've been putting up with everything calmly. Lie. Mom told me about your bad attitude. I believed you wouldn't do such things, but I see it now from what you've said today. You believe her over me? Of course. That's awful. If you love your mother so much, why don't you marry her? I regretted my words as soon as they slipped out, but shockingly he said, I would have married her if she wasn't my mom. I was taken aback by his statement. Anyway, if you speak ill of Mom again, we're getting a divorce. What? Divorce? Yes, that's right. What is he even saying? Why doesn't he care about me at all? Look, I've been prepared for this. Here's the divorce papers. If you can't live with Mom, then it's divorce. Saying that, he threw the filled-out divorce papers on the floor. I couldn't believe he had prepared them. While I was enduring harassment from my mother-in-law, my husband had prepared these as a threat to keep me living with his mother. Fine. I understand. I'll leave this house starting today. Let's both take some time to think things over. Yeah, cool off for a while, he said, as if I was to blame. Although he threatened me with divorce, making a snap decision in the heat of the moment wasn't right. Besides, my father was very happy about my marriage as his only daughter. I couldn't simply get a divorce and upset him. So I chose to separate temporarily instead of divorcing, hoping that maybe my husband and mother-in-law would reconsider after some time. The next day, I returned to my parents' home and explained the situation to my father. He was quite surprised by my sudden return, but he said, "Are you okay? Don't overdo it. As long as you are happy being yourself, that's all we want. Here, cheer up now and eat some meat." Offering me some meat, my father comforted me in his awkward way. "Thank you. Oh, this meat is delicious," I said, crying as I ate. My father, a successful owner of a famous steak restaurant with many locations, is now living alone since my mother passed away last year from cancer. Ever since I was a child, he worked from morning till night every day. But on his days off, he always took me to amusement parks, aquariums, and parks, and played a lot with me. I loved my father, who was capable, kind, and tough. About 2 weeks after separating from Steve, my father returned home with a somber face. What's wrong? Actually, I have stomach cancer. What? Cancer? Why even you? Angela. I'm sorry. I know you were just saddened by losing your mother last year. But can't it be treated? No, it seems to have metastasized elsewhere too. That's terrible. Angela, I know it's a hard time for you too, being separated. I'm sorry for the trouble. Don't worry about me. But why you? I broke down crying. Fortunately, as a caretaker and currently separated, I decided to dedicate myself to supporting my father until his passing. A few days later, I received several calls from my husband. I called him back immediately. What do you want now? Why aren't you coming back? It's been over 2 weeks. Come back soon. My father has been diagnosed with cancer. From today, I will be taking care of him. So I won't return. Well, all right. I have my mom here anyway. When your dad dies, come back then. His dismissive response to my grieving was the worst. I thought, well, all right. When he dies. Every word he says is just terrible. Was this man really my husband? I felt as if something snapped inside me. After that, I took a leave from work and spent my days cherishing the time with my father. Angela. Thank you for everything, day after day, for such an old man like me. What are you saying? When I was little, you took care of me every day, right? It's no different now. I'm happy we can live together again. You really grew up to be a kind-hearted person. I'm so lucky. Angela, you must find happiness too. Dad. Thank you. I'm glad you are my father. A few days later, my father passed away. I was busy with the wake and the funeral, hardly having time to grieve. While I was sorting through my father's belongings, my husband called. I didn't want to talk to him and ignored his calls, but he was persistently ringing every day. I blocked him without hesitation. Honestly, I couldn't care less about my mama's boy husband anymore. Suddenly, the doorbell rang. When I checked the intercom, there were my husband and his mother. What? What are you doing here? You wouldn't answer the phone, so I came all this way to see you. I didn't want to think about it anymore. My father. My father has passed away. To my hoarsely whispered words, my husband responded not with words of comfort, but with the most insensitive remark. Oh, he did say he had cancer. So, your father finally passed away, huh? He was such a kind father. I really loved him. Angela, didn't your mother pass away recently too? That means all your father's inheritance comes to you, right? Great. We can finally get the inheritance, huh? Maybe we should go on a trip or something. That sounds nice. Let's use the money to go on a family trip to the beach resort. What? What are you talking about? Are you serious? Your father was a business owner and seemed quite wealthy. With the inheritance, we could probably go to the beach resort for a week, right? As I wept in sadness, without a single word of kindness. The two of them joyfully assumed they could inherit everything. These two, still the despicable pair I remembered, were overjoyed at their misunderstanding. It was time to set them straight. Huh? What are you talking about? We're divorced, you know? What? So, you and I are now complete strangers. That means not a single penny of my father's inheritance goes to you. Yes, those words from my father, telling me to be happy, had prompted me to decide on the divorce. I was determined to find happiness, for both my deceased mother and father. I knew I wouldn't find it with my husband and his mother. No way. I didn't hear about this. When did you file for divorce? Angela, what do you mean? There's no way you could divorce Steve without his consent. Don't lie. In panic, my husband and his mother flustered. Steve, have you forgotten? You're the one who handed me the completed divorce papers. You even signed them so diligently. After a moment of thought, my husband muttered an "oh," as if he finally remembered. That divorce paper was a joke, right? It was just to scare you a bit. Did you actually submit it to the office? Of course, I did. With despicable people like you two, I couldn't stand to see your faces anymore. It was definitely the right decision to get a divorce. What? Steve. Why did you give her such things? We were planning a trip soon with the inheritance money. What about our trip abroad now? His mother shook his shoulder. Wow, you were planning such a thing? Really despicable. I was truly suffering after my father died. To think you were waiting for his death. Sorry about that. But the inheritance. You could share a little, couldn't you? Are you stupid? It's already inherited under my name. And there's no way I'm giving a penny to someone who's a stranger now. Don't say such things. That's cruel. Cruel? Who's the cruel one here? I must have taken them by surprise by raising my voice. For a moment, my husband and his mother flinched. I've been suffering living with you two for so long. I've finally freed myself. And now what? Inheritance? That's really disgusting. Get out of this house right now. I exploded in anger. Resigned, they finally walked away, heads down. Later on, their arguments continued. Mom, it's because of your harassment that Angela left. Are you saying it's my fault? You're the one who wrote the divorce papers to scare her. What? My fault? Who do you think allowed you to live in this house in the first place? They fell into discord, and the mother-in-law moved out. And now lives alone in a small apartment on her pension. As for my husband, after becoming estranged from his mother and her connections, he could no longer work in real estate. He was a man who couldn't do anything on his own. Losing his job just because his mother wasn't around anymore was pathetic. Now, he scrapes by with odd jobs. As for me, I've fallen in love with a younger man at my workplace. Hi, Angela. If it's okay with you, could we have dinner together today? Please. His awkward invitation made me smile. I'd love to. You've made a reservation at a restaurant, right? Of course. You said you love meat, right? I've booked a steak place. Wow, our first date at a steak restaurant? That's not romantic at all. Please don't say that, he said, clinging closer. This younger man was irresistibly adorable. Mom, Dad, this time for sure, I will definitely be happy. I spoke to my parents, who were now in heaven.